What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Body Lock. I'm Patrick Auger. That's Matt Wells. That's Drake Riggs. We got the 2020 MMA Awards here from the Body Lock. We're starting off with Fight of the Year. Now, there was some debate here, but not a lot. We were unanimous in this one. Weili Zhang versus Joanna Jedrzejczyk. Fight of the Year. Boys, let's break this down. We all had this as our top pick. Matt, I'll start with you because I know Drake's got plenty to say, so let's get you in there before he goes on. What made this the fight of the year for you?
For me, it was a couple of things. And excuse my phone as I mute this here. One, it was obviously a title fight, right? Title fights are obviously very significant in the sport. And then you take into account that Weili Zhang had the opportunity to be the first Chinese champion in the UFC, right? So that added a very significant element to this fight as well. And then on the flip side, you had Joanna Jedrzejczyk trying to get back to where she was and, hold that title. And, she's had a long history of impressive title fights during her run, right? So a lot of things, like a lot of the anticipation for the moment of this fight paid off in spades, man. Like, this fight delivered on every metric possible, except for the few people that were like, oh, this can't be the fight of the year. There was no ground. Like, I don't care. It was an incredible striking fight for 5 rounds. It was just ridiculousness, and like neither woman backed down. And I don't see how. I mean, I could see you putting it your second favorite fight of the year, but like you said, this was unanimous among us. Like, right? I think this is the only one that was unanimous out of all of our awards so far. So just to give it, I mean, I don't know how else to explain it, man. Just go back and watch the fight if some of y'all have forgotten it, because it did take place earlier in the year, and those are usually kind of hard to remember as we're wrapping up things because recency bias in MMA, when that's really the name of the game when we're talking about the best ever and trying to throw people into title shots when other people are waiting in the wings. But recency bias is a thing. But no, this fight is by far fight of the year for me. So I'm curious what Drake has to say about this one.
So yeah, first off, I just want to say that not only these awards this year that we have put together and everything, but this entire 2020 of doing the videos with TBL and everything has made me realize how much more of a hipster that I really am, because my criterias are way outlandish. I have noticed, apparently, compared to most people. But yes, I like the point you bring up there, because for me, what makes an amazing fight or a great fight, a competitive fight, just overall, the best of fights are ones that go all over the place and embody every single possible art of mixed martial arts that they possibly can, right? Of course, it's going to be nearly impossible to go absolutely everywhere, include every single skill that you can. But I love the ones that show it off the most and display what exactly MMA is. And I think you could definitely argue that Poirier and Hooker, more so Davison and Moreno, shows that off probably more than any fight that we saw this year to the best of its possible abilities, right? So it's definitely rightfully up there. But the thing about Weili versus Joanna is that it was just a striking matchup to the highest degree. That was just nonstop entertainment. These two going at it just every single second of 5 rounds, didn't slow down one bit. Actually, I did rewatch this fight like last week, right after Maya versus Askren. I did that on purpose to see how they stacked up, which was a very fun experiment. I recommend doing it. It's a fun time. And there was actually more little grappling exchanges than I remembered, after seeing it multiple times in March because we were so hyped about it. But yeah, there were multiple takedown attempts, some clinch work and everything you remember all these crazy exchanges like in the center of the cage the most. So going back and rewatching it, I kind of enjoyed it more for those little elements that were few and far between compared to the entirety of the match with the striking and everything. But it was just nonstop entertainment, them throwing full force, volume. It had everything you could ask for in a striking matchup, like not just boxing, but the kicks were involved. There were some spinning things, it was excellent. It was just too good, too rare of a striking fight to say, all right, I have to go with this one over it. And, you can also argue the momentum shifts. There were definitely momentum shifts in that fight, but like no moments where somebody was knocked down or severely hurt, like close to finishing, which I think is another important thing for the best fights. And there were some moments maybe there in the Figueiredo one over this one. But again, it's just the quality of, the talent on display just consistently throughout is like just something you do not see often. And as we compare to these other fights, Hooker and Poirier, and then Figueiredo and Moreno, they slowed down towards the end. Like they didn't gas out or anything per se, but compared to Weili versus Joanna, 25 full minutes, foot on the gas. So, I mean, just those things are just too much to be topped, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. In my mind, that was the main event of that pay-per-view. You had Romero versus Adesanya, whatever the hell that was, follow it. But really, Jay versus Jedrzejczyk was, as you mentioned, a just top-level 25-minute striking battle that is so rare in the sport at any time, right? And so to see that, I loved Figueiredo versus Moreno as well. I think if round 5 had been as crazy as rounds 1 through 4, it may have pulled me to lead to giving the vote for that. But even then, I mean, Figueiredo versus Moreno had some sloppy exchanges too. I love that you bring up the technique there because Jedrzejczyk versus Jay was super technical, and I feel a lot of people were just watching him was like, oh, this is great, like standing and striking, super entertaining. But the technique behind that fight was otherworldly. And so in my mind, that had to take the win here. Again, let us know in the comments if you agree with our decision, if you think it's the wrong one, you think Moreno versus Figueiredo or Hooker versus Poirier or some other fight should have been there. Definitely let us know. I mean, guys, I'm not sure there's much more to say on this one, but anything else on the fight of the year for 2020?
I will just say that, for the people that thought Figueiredo versus Moreno should have been fight of the year, like for those reasons that you said, like you cannot have a fight of the year where the 5th round falls off dramatically while there is another fight that excelled in the 5th round. Like, I mean, how can you ignore a whole 5 minutes of fight just because this one had more elements of mixed martial arts in it? I don't agree with that whatsoever. For me, I just want the action. Give me the significant action for longer periods of time, like keeping you glued to your seat. Because like watching the 5th round of Moreno Figueiredo, it's like, okay, they're gassed. Like you never got that with Zhang versus Joanna. So for me, I mean, it's not really much of a debate. Like we said, man, unanimous here on the Body Lock. So I'm curious to see how many people put this second. But for me, it's an easy decision. Probably the easiest award to choose this year in 2020.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Drake, anything else from you?
But the funny thing, I guess, to point out about if there was any moment of slowing down or gassing in that fight, it was actually Weili at the end of round 2. At least it looked like it, because you remember she had to be picked up and didn't have to be, but her cornerman came and picked her up and carried her to the corner, which there was a very slight controversy about that, in the months after. But just then afterwards, just recharged, got back out there like nothing happened. But it was a moment where live you were like, oh boy, is she about to, slow down significantly? Nope, totally not even the problem whatsoever. So that was a crazy thing that kind of maybe adds to the whole fight when you watch it back and everything. And another thing, I remember the argument during the time of when that fight happened where people were saying like, man, does the shitty main event that followed fuel or, boost how good of a fight this was? And that was kind of a strong thing I saw people talk about afterwards. But all these months later, I think it's safe to say, no, it still holds up just fine on its own. It is a fantastic fight. One of the best ever, men or women, doesn't matter. So unanimous at the Body Lock. Take it as it is.
That's right. Take it as it is. And again, if you got a different opinion, you're wrong. So there you go. That's it.
And followers drop. Subscribers unsubscribed.